On Monday, March 24th, 2025, ARK Invest Cathie Wood stated in a televised Bloomberg interview that Bitcoin will hit $1.5 million by 2030. That's a pretty bold claim. But is it possible? Well, you probably know I've been in the $1 million Bitcoin club for a while. We're going there. It's only a question of when. But if it does happen, what needs to happen with nations, money, technology for Bitcoin to transform from potential gold 2.0 into the real gold 2.0 for the digital age? Along with that, a fitting price tag of $1 million per BTC. Well, today we're gazing into that future and imagining how the dominoes could fall over the next several years, and a hopefully relatively realistic scenario here for you, how all of it could actually play out. So let's go from where we are right now, spring 2025. Bitcoin is, well, mid $80,000 range at the time of recording this video. GameStop's adoption of Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset could mark a turning point for corporations, with other corporations starting to FOMO in, AMC, Chewy, stuff like that. GME starts outperforming most other stocks throughout the spring. Several other big companies follow suit. And then it happens. After weeks of rumors, a Mag 7 company, maybe it's going to be Meta. Zuckerberg, of course, does have a goat named Bitcoin. It's enough, right? Announces that's going to adopt a Bitcoin reserve asset strategy. The company swaps 10% of its $77 billion in cash for Bitcoin. Retail FOMO hits because of big names finally back. And this ain't GME, man. This is Meta. Bitcoin peaks up to $150K along with global money flows dragging it up. Prices below $100,000 suddenly feel real damn cheap, and everyone's kicking themselves for not buying under 100K. Fall 2025, Bitcoin hovering in the 130K zone. The gavel drops on October 15th. Senator Loomis's Bitcoin Act clears Congress. President Trump signs it into law. So after some gritty negotiations, the final orders for the U.S. Treasury to swap a portion of their gold for 300,000 Bitcoin over a 3-year period to build a reserve no more than 500,000 Bitcoin. Now, although the 300,000 Bitcoin swap is less than what some had hoped for, the fact that the U.S. government is an active Bitcoin buyer slams markets higher. That, along with the Q4 supply squeeze, sends Bitcoin to $250,000 by the end of the year, while gold crashes 10%. China, of course, starts feeling the FOMO, and they want to get in on the party. So 2026, the year of the nation state, the U.S. has called the world's bluff. Now, multiple other nations are scrambling to adopt a Bitcoin strategy. We already know Brazil's talking about it. Big rumors that China's talking about it. Middle Eastern countries are already on board. Meanwhile, Bitcoin volatility in full swing, correcting 30% to $108,000. Everybody loses their mind and starts thinking it's the end. We're going back to 20K. The market worries that 250K was the final top of tops, and it'll never go higher than that ever again. But Brazil puts a stop to all that nonsense with a 70K BTC reserve announcement, funded with $80 billion trade surplus. Abu Dhabi follows, another 100,000 Bitcoin to their already existing stockpile. Japan jumps in. They want 80,000 Bitcoin from a low-yield bond sale and a gold swap. It's all possible. Bitcoin's 4-year cycle snaps. It's over. The big game's here. No brutal bear market correction is coming. Max pain is higher prices. The smart money saw it first and front-run the latest nation-state buying frenzy. After retail FOMOs again buys the top, Bitcoin will reach $400,000 by Q4 2026 with a valuation that's half of gold's total market cap. Now, before we get into the next step, and it's getting real juicy, guys, so stick around, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, which is Kernel DAO, a restaking powerhouse, letting you put your assets to work to earn some damn insane rewards. Kernel has $2 billion plus total value locked across their two main products, Kelp, which is an e-staking protocol, and Kernel, which is a BNB staking protocol, backed by some big players like Binance and many others. You know they're not messing around. You can restake your BNB to earn BNB pool rewards on Kernel, or restake your ETH on Kelp to earn yield and points. And if you're holding the Kernel token, then you're going to have even more airdrops coming your way. We already have a few confirmed. Mira, which is an AI coprocessor, Yield Nest, which is a liquid restaking protocol. They've announced plans to allocate 1-2% of their token supply to Kernel token holders. Now look, this is all getting pretty juicy. There's a link down below, and there's a lot more information here. So check that link out down below. You can start learning more and also put some of your assets to work today, earning you some passive yield. Go check it out, and thank you for supporting our sponsors. Now, let's talk about 2027. 2027 is a sovereign debt crisis. The banks find their life raft. The U.S. debt hits $40 trillion. Interest on the debt is now the country's largest expense. In China, local government default starts hitting hard as real estate crisis worsens. Italy and Spain require hundreds of billions of dollars of EU bailouts again. The governments in the crisis turn to money printers. paper over all the cracks in the economy. Global M2 and inflation head north, but that helps keep Bitcoin trading in the $300,000 range. Now the commercial banks are worried about the rising risks of a major sovereign default, and they need to de-risk from their bond allocations. JP Morgan, the hater of Bitcoins, pivots first. No panic dumping, no going all in, just a 2.5% US Treasury swap to Bitcoin for $40 billion. Goldman Sachs can't wait out the party. They make a 5% swap for $125 billion. Then SoftBank, which has been crypto-friendly for ages anyway. HSBC, several other major banks do the same. After the dust settles, the banks collectively have allocated $500 billion into Bitcoin, which has helped push spot prices up to $600,000. By the end of the year, it's common knowledge that every financial portfolio should have a 2% Bitcoin allocation at a minimum, which is already, by the way, what BlackRock is already saying this. It's just going to take a little while for everyone else to catch up. Fast forward, 2028. With many of the world's biggest players trying to stack sats, Bitcoin's fifth halving, slated for February 2028, comes into full view. Miner production will drop from 3.125 BTC per block to 1.5 BTC every 10 minutes. Any Bitcoin priced below $500,000 will be considered a steal. Crazy to say right now, but you fast forward a few years, I guarantee this is going to be happening. But if all that wasn't enough, a newer market player increasingly makes its presence felt. Artificial intelligence. By 2028, all the institutions, the banks, even retail, have autonomous AI programs running 24/7 to best strategically purchase Bitcoin, one of the most valuable assets in the world. But what's really happening is the AI programs are starting to front run each other because they figured out in months what took humans 2 decades to discover. That the Bitcoin network, which is backed by computing power and electricity, was the world's hardest money for the digital age. And anybody who doesn't have some is going to be at a disadvantage. So instead of the 2028 halving taking 6 months to kick in, it hits in 30 days. The miners just don't have enough supply to dump into the market anymore to have any kind of meaningful effect. Bitcoin reaches $850,000 by mid-year, briefly flipping gold's market cap for the first time in history. 2029, the world's still reeling from the 2027 debt crisis. Multiple major governments, including the world's largest economies, owe unbelievable mountains of debt that will never be possible to repay, and everybody knows it. The central banks, the US Fed, the ECB, the Bank of China, the Bank of Japan, everybody have kept the musical chair game going with the money printer, but it's not working anymore. There's no place left to go. Look, cash and stablecoins, of course, are still used widely for transactions, but everybody knows that fiat's a losing bet. People are starting to question saving in fiat. Gold, it's exciting, it's nice, but it's kind of stuck. Bitcoin, it's the obvious life raft for the digital age. Now it's time for the central banks to get on board. They make the same calculations as the commercial banks did previously. And we had early front runners for that. The Czech Republic, for example, their central bank was in early. But the big boys, we're talking about the big boy governments, they're starting to come in now. With falling values and spiking yields across major government bonds, they are increasingly seen as a bad bet by the market. The US Fed moves first, the Bank of China and the ECB following. They don't dump bonds, they simply hedge them with Bitcoin, the same way they'd hedged with gold previously. News of the US Fed pivot sends Bitcoin over $1 million for the first time, cements its status as the world's most valuable asset by market cap, and the new base monetary and financial layer for the global digital economy, the only truly neutral cryptocurrency out there. All right, guys, all the events we just covered, the corporations, the nation states, the central banks, the AI, it's all what's required for this asset to truly go north of $1 million. Now, it might all sound far-fetched, but everything that's currently happening right now, in the last couple of months that have happened, would seem wildly far-fetched 5 years ago. People said it would never go over $100,000 5 years ago. And here we are. And this might all seem like a fantasy, and Lark's just out here spouting out a bunch of bullshit. He might not have even made it this far into the video. But if you had gone back to 2017 or 2021 and said, hey, in a couple of years, the United States is going to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve in 2025, where you say you're a fucking idiot, get the fuck out of here. But it happened. The world changes faster than anyone expects, and that change is accelerating due to the rapid changes in technology right now. And anybody who's not participating is getting left behind. Now, could these things happen in the next 5 to 10 years? Yeah, of course. And look, this is just a fantasy timeline. Maybe it doesn't play out quite like that. Maybe we have to wait until mid-2030s for some of this stuff to play out. But the main point I want to drive home is that the odds of something like this actually happening are a lot higher than what you might think. Most people currently don't expect this to happen, but they didn't expect any of this shit to happen. And it's all happened. And Cathie Wood's $1.5 million prediction is not actually that crazy. I've believed in the $1 million Bitcoin sometime in the 2030s for years now. And if you believe in that, then this will be one of the easiest 10x investments of your life. And I know there's some crazy predictions out there from Michael Saylor. This thing's going to go to like $13 or $49 million or whatever. Those predictions, not in our lifetime, let's put it that way, and should be taken with a bit of a grain of salt. But $1 million Bitcoin, however absurd it might seem to you right now, is not actually that crazy. Thanks for watching.